Well, it's my pleasure today to introduce our speaker for this BACN meeting of May 2022. Mary Cravets is a client generation strategist and international speaker who helps entrepreneurs significantly grow their business without working nights and weekends. Using her methods, the majority of her clients quickly increase their income by 50% or more. Clients include former CFO of Microsoft North America, thought leaders in the coaching industry, and rising stars in a variety of professions. Mary is also an avid roller coaster enthusiast, obsessed with otters and rocks, and is a member of her local NAACP branch. She comes highly recommended from our prior speakers, prior board members, and she's here today to share her expertise and wisdom around speaking for free, a surprisingly profitable way to attract new clients. With that, I offer this virtual stage to Mary Cravets. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much for the warm welcome. And I loved getting into the breakout rooms. We had a great conversation there. I am going to jump right in. All right, so today our topic is speaking for free, a surprisingly profitable way to attract new clients. Now, I want to start with just a temperature check with everyone. I have a question for you. By show of hands, do you ever feel like this? Like poor Calvin here. Everybody I know needs what I'm selling. Like if you could just get people to see and understand what you're doing, you definitely attract more clients because so many people need what you do. Yes, anybody? I'm actually looking at your faces. So awesome. Oh, and Deborah used the electronic hand. Yes, awesome. Well, that's great. It can be so frustrating when you feel that way because you are accomplished, you are smart, you're experienced. Today, what I'm here with is a strategy to help you clarify, to showcase your brilliance so you can get more clients, you can earn more money and make a bigger impact. And the focus is going to be on speaking today, but not just to get in the spotlight. The purpose of speaking for free is to generate more business and more clients. So we'll start with, I'll also be diving into the bigger picture strategy of client generation that can impact your speaking success. Here is what we will cover. Number one, I'm going to help you answer the question, should I speak for free once and for all? Because it is not for everyone. You have to understand what the strategy entails. Number two, you're going to get the keys to making audiences hungry to work with you even before you set foot on stage. And number three, you're going to factor in the 6 essential elements of an effective client generation plan so you can maximize your results. I'll take some questions about halfway through. Then at the end, I'm going to do a giveaway. Generally along the way, I have some additional resources that I'll ask you to email me to receive. And I actually have an upcoming workshop I'm going to be willing to give you a free pass to if you want. So I'll make sure that that happens as well. Okay, so let's get the party started here with a little bit of action in the chat. So go ahead and open up your chat window. Open up your chat window, put your fingers on the keyboard. I'm going to ask you a question. I just want you to type out the first thing that comes to mind. It doesn't have to be an involved answer. Ready? Here it is. Why is this topic important to you? I mean, let's face it, it's Friday morning on a holiday weekend. You could probably be about 27 other places, but here you are. Why? Let's see. I need more clients. I want to connect with my people. Best way to get new clients, to grow more clients, build awareness broadly. Would like more clients. I'm interested in starting speaking. Fabulous. I want to attract more clients. I love speaking. That's why I started too, Tony. I love it. I want to share my magic with others and make a difference. Get a lot of business through speaking, exposure. Okay, so Lisa, thank you for sharing that you've done free speaking and you haven't gotten clients from it. That is a very common story, and today is definitely going to help with that. And Joey wants a process I can repeat over and over. Amen. That is structure, process. That is one of the big keys to success in business, and that's what I deliver. See, I've been doing a lot of speaking for free, rarely resulting in work. So I need to learn about better follow-up. Okay, great. Well, the good news is that you are all in the right place. And before I dig into all of the details of it, I want to build the strategy from the ground up for you. I want to give you the background of where this comes from, because I always want to know, is this theory that this person is giving me? Is this something they read in the book last week? And I'm here to tell you this is definitely from my own in the trenches experiences, because today I have a thriving 11-year-old business. We're tiny but mighty, on track for the 500,000 mark in the next couple of years. And my speaking strategies are a big part of that success. But getting the strategy going in the beginning, it was rough. I mean, all I knew at the beginning was that I loved speaking from a young age, and I've always had a way of connecting with audiences. So I wanted to use those powers for good. Some of you called it the magic. I knew I could grow my business that way, but I did everything wrong for years. I did pretty much everything wrong. Everything from being in front of the wrong audience to not speaking on topics that had much to do with my actual service offerings. I actually hired someone to help me make my presentations more effective to generate clients, and I became overly salesy. And I just spent so much time, so much money hiring experts that I finally hit a wall. And I realized I either needed to give it up or figure it out. And so when I hit that wall, a question occurred to me. And the question was, what's working? That was it. What's working? And what I realized when I asked myself that question was, I had been completely ignoring my foundational strategies of how to generate clients. And I'll share with you what that looks like. This is the client generation strategy, the big picture that I created. I'd been completely ignoring it for years. And this is what helped me double my business several times over. It's how my clients consistently grow their business 50% or more. So I went back to the drawing board, trusted myself, rebuilt my approach, simplified, boiled everything down to the structures and strategies that consistently bring in clients. And from all of these experiences, I turned it around and I learned that three things are true. Number one, anyone can generate clients from speaking. I did it wrong for years, but eventually I developed a process that generated over $1 million in the last 6 years in client income. The second thing is you've got to be strategic and pair that with being authentic. Be you. Winging it doesn't work. You need structure and authenticity. And the third thing is, this is a huge opportunity. There are tons of marketers out there kind of screaming about online funnels and the advertising and Instagram. But the fact is that this is a huge opportunity. And with the world staying as virtual as it is, the opportunities of even a couple of years ago have multiplied exponentially. There are thousands of people, hundreds and hundreds of audiences, all looking for great speakers like you. So let's jump into the first teaching point of answering the question, should I speak for free once and for all? And the thing about speaking is we say speaking, this one word, like it covers everything. It's just this generic term. And people interpret it in a lot of different ways. There's doing your own events and speaking at them. There's keynotes where you're paid. There's training that you bring into companies. There's lead generation talks, speaking for free. There are actually opportunities where you pay to speak to get on other people's stages. So I want to really clarify the benefits of the strategy I'm talking about, kind of comparing it to what you're going to experience in other avenues. And the most important thing is to understand what strategy you want to go after, and that you apply the correct tactics to succeed at it. So after today, you might go, you know what, don't want to do that speaking for free thing, but I clearly understand that I can't apply this strategy to a keynote strategy. So I just want you to be able to align your actions. So I'm going to share with you the benefits of free speaking. So number one, someone else gathers the audience. Hallelujah. If you have ever done your own events, you know that you will spend a ton of time just trying to get people to show up. And I do my own events every couple of months, every quarter, and I can probably do 10 speaking gigs for other people's audiences in the time it takes me to organize one of my own. You can get in front of a lot more people and focus on preparing content instead of hustling to get cheeks and seats, to get people in the audience. I mean, then you're becoming an event marketer instead of generating leads from speaking. So I love the fact that someone else gathers the audience. Number two, there is a lot less competition here than paid speaking. There was an article that came out from the National Speakers Association about 2 years ago, and it talked about how much competition there is for this middle market of subject matter experts. It's huge. You've got people who are willing to do, keynotes and volunteer and all that. There's a lot of people at the lower end. They're the high end, Brene Brown, Serena Williams, and so on. And then there's this middle market, where a lot of us fall into. We are subject matter experts. And the competition for the paid speaking in that market is very high. I like less competition where you can still be profitable. And that's the next piece. You can make real money. As I said, I did it wrong for a lot of years, but when you do it like the whole thing, you structure your talk so that it is lead generation. It's not training. It's not sales. It's lead generation, which is this really special combination that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But you can make real money. A lot of times I'm making better money than paid speakers, because paid speakers tend to just get paid for the talk and they're one and done. And then last piece, as I mentioned before, there are tons of opportunities. So here's the thing. When I look at this, someone else is gathering an audience. There's less competition. You can make real money. There's tons of opportunities. I just said, yes, please. And now 90% of my business comes from speaking. And as I said before, you've got to make sure to apply the right strategy to the right, to the kind of speaking that you want to do. Now, if you have any remaining resistance, let me just tell you a quick story about this guy right here. So this is John. He's the former CFO of Microsoft North America. And when I mentioned speaking for free to him, you should have seen his face. To say he was resistant would be an understatement. I mean, of course, because he charges 5 figures just to show up to a company. But because he was open and he understood that he did not know how to generate new clients and that this was not what he'd learned in the past, he was able to apply this strategy successfully. He was able to double an already successful year. So I encourage you, stay open and curious through this process. All right, so let's look at the keys to making audiences hungry to work with you even before you set foot on stage. So if you've been speaking and audiences love you but don't hire you, what is missing in your strategy? And if you haven't been speaking yet but want to, how do you start strong? I'm going to go through some important tips for what to do before, during, and after a speaking gig so that your efforts really pay off. And just to show you where we are on the map, what I'm talking about today is a lead generation strategy. So as we go through this section, there is one guiding principle I want you to keep in mind, and this may be the most important thing I'm going to share with you today. So get ready for this slide, get ready to get excited, and get ready to write it down. Your focus when you're speaking for free must be 100% on your ideal client. Everything you do must be designed with your ideal client in mind. Everything must be designed with your ideal in mind, because the only way you make money from speaking for free is through new business, and the new business can only come from the ideal client. Everything from the groups you approach to the title you create to the final word of your talk must be geared towards your ideal client. This is your guiding principle. You're always going to go back to this. So here are some tips on what to do before. The first thing is develop a kick-ass title. And let me clarify what I mean by this. Your title must speak to what your ideal client knows and wants. And this can be a little tricky because sometimes there's a disconnect between what your ideal client wants and what you know they need. So for instance, if you are an expert on emotional intelligence, you might know that in order for people to become more effective leaders, for their teams to start becoming more cohesive, you might know that they need to learn emotional intelligence. So you think, I will call this, emotional intelligence for dummies. That's my title. Of course, you'd never do that because it's terrible, but you put emotional intelligence there. But if your ideal client doesn't know that that's the solution they need, then they're not going to be attracted to your talk. You have to start with what they do know. So for instance, they might know that their teams are acting like a bunch of 5-year-olds. There's a lot of drama. So if your title addressed that, how to ditch the drama and get your team cohesive, it's not great either, but something like that. It has to address what your ideal client knows. And that's what makes it kick-ass, because that is based on your ideal client, and that will get your ideal client into the audience. So that's number one. Make sure that title is on point. And actually, I'm going to give you a resource around this to help you do this in a very specific way. The second thing is focus on booking gigs, not creating your whole presentation, because it's so easy to safely stay behind your computer in your comfort zone and work on content and graphics and scripting. But without an audience, who are you preparing for? So after you develop your title, your energy must be focused on booking gigs. Must be. Otherwise, you have a perfect presentation that no one will ever see. So focus on booking gigs, much more energy on that. All right, and number three, I want you to understand the 3 non-negotiables of booking unpaid gigs. This is really important. This is how you make sure you earn money from free gigs. Number one, your title. You have your title you've developed to attract your ideal client. Sometimes groups will ask you, hey, can you tweak that? Can you align it with our theme this month? And if you soften it or tweak it, it just waters down the concentration of your ideal clients in the audience, giving you less of a chance to get new business. So the nice thing to say is, I'd prefer not. I've had great success attracting a strong audience with this title. I prefer to keep it. So non-negotiables, number one, your title. Number two, to gather contact information. In order for speaking to be a long-term business growth strategy, you want to be able to keep in touch with the people in the audience. So you have to be able to gather contact information. And number three, you've got to be allowed to make an offer. Now, for most speakers, I recommend your offer is simply scheduling a follow-up conversation. You're going to see a version of that today, of course, that I do. Now, making a massive paid offer with bonuses and upsells, it is inappropriate, it is tacky, and it is generally ineffective. If you're in front of an audience you've never met before, it's just kind of tacky. But in order to attract new clients from your speaking, you've got to be allowed by the group to make an offer of some kind, at the very least, to be able to invite them to get on your calendar to talk further about working together. These are the non-negotiables to make sure that your free speaking becomes profitable. All right, so during your talk, the first thing you got to do is solve the how do I not give it all away problem. This is what I get asked by people who are working through some of my speaker programs. Is like, how do I not give it all away? I want to give value. I don't want to feel like I'm holding back, but I have to leave them wanting more. So how do I do that in a way that doesn't feel icky or like you're teasing people or just any of those manipulations? Because you do have to create curiosity and desire, but don't want to feel like you're withholding. So how do you strike that balance? So the solution is to do two things. Number one, you've got to give solid value. You must be willing to serve your audience, to not just tease them with fluffy platitudes and just theoretical fluffy stuff. You've got to give them something that tomorrow they could put into practice. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, you have to lay out very clearly for them what else there is that they must master if they want to achieve their goals. So you've got to give that balance. And again, what I am showing you today, what I'm teaching about speaking, I'm also doing. So learn contextually. You're going to watch how I do this, right? So you need the two things to not give it all away. give solid value, stuff they can use right away. And number two, show them the bigger picture of what needs to be done to be successful. During number two, don't rely on the organization to give you contact information. I have been promised contact information by organizers in the past, and it's gone wrong in two ways. Number one, the organization didn't follow through, or number two, they did, but it was a week later, and following up a week later, it's way too late for effective follow-up. And the third piece is twofold, is don't be salesy, but also don't make it hard for people to work with you further. Because if you spend your whole presentation being salesy, you're not going to get new business. You're not going to get future business. You're not going to be invited to speak elsewhere. But if you don't do any kind of offer, you're making it hardest on the people who want to work with you the most. That just doesn't make any sense. So you have to make it easy for people to work with you by having a clear, compelling, logistically clear offer to make. And even if making an offer is nerve-wracking to you, when you have it clearly articulated, that process, that rinse and repeat option, like put together, you can be getting clients even from small audiences, which a lot of people dismiss that opportunity. So I want to give you an example of this. This is Ratna Ramakrishnan, and we put her offer together, and I love what she says here. She says, I'm doing the happy dance right now. She put together her script. She did her offer. She was shaking. She was in front of a very small group. I think it was 4 people, and she booked 2 leads out of that. You've got to have this structure together to make it easy on you to make that offer. Now, what to do after, and just after I do this section, we are going to go into some Q&A, because I know I've been getting a lot of content at you. So we're going to get some Q&A after this. So the things to do after is, number one, evaluate. You want to make notes about what went well and what to shift, and you need to do it right away. I strongly recommend afterwards, you always schedule some time immediately following, like an hour or 2, to evaluate, make notes about what went well in the presentation, also record the data about the audience. What is the topic? How many leads did you get? How many people were sitting in the audience? And year over year, looking at this information can help you refine into which are most profitable. I do this evaluation every year. I look at everything. One year, I found that if I spoke in areas with a population of less than 100,000, I did not ever close a client. So I moved to not taking speaking gigs in those smaller areas. For some reason, it just wasn't working for me. Number 2, afterwards, follow up immediately, because of course you got their contact information, right? So whatever you promised, whatever your follow-up was, send that out right away and repeat your offer at the top of the email you send out. There are people who almost took you up on the offer, or they got distracted and didn't follow through. So when you follow up right away, you can pick up a few more leads you might lose otherwise. So no excuses, follow up immediately. And number 3, you maximize your results by integrating with other strategies. Because if you treat speaking like one and done, then you are losing out on the long game of this strategy. You'll want to integrate speaking into inviting people to be on your mailing list, to other courses you're doing, to other offers, other webinars you may be doing in the future. Don't be a one and done, because for the people who do not immediately express interest, how do you continue the conversation and nurture the relationship? They may just need to experience a little bit more of you. So keep in mind, make sure your keep in touch strategies are delivering value and offering them opportunities to work with you in both complimentary and paid ways. I consistently have people reaching out to me months or even years after speaking. And this is how you create that leverage, those compounding results from every single speaking gig you do. And if you're wondering if I've taken a breath this whole time, I have not. So, questions? I'm throwing it to you. Bruce.
A lot of emphasis on getting contacts from the group and not relying on the organization. How do you do that?
Okay, I will demonstrate. How's that? Okay, so I have a handful of additional speaking resources because what we're talking about is big picture speaking, and what I like to do is get very, very specific. So I have 2 speaking resources I'd like to provide to you. The first one is a course called Launch Your Six-Figure Speaking Strategy, and it teaches you how to down to what are the words in the email into the subject line to send to the organizer. Detail of how to book speaking gigs. It is checklists. It is how to do inquiries, how to look online, how to search, how to find, like the whole thing. So if you ever get stuck on the how to book speaking gigs and you would like that course, I'm going to get it into your hands in just a second. The other thing is, and this will be a follow-up in a couple of days probably, but I'm doing a workshop next month. It's a $200 workshop, and I want to give you free passes to it. I'll give you a coupon code if you want it. It's called Captivating Talk Titles, how to create, the key to enrolling more clients and booking more gigs. My favorite class I've ever done on speaking, really targeted for you to have something, a title that aligns with your ideal clients, like really lights them up. It gets organizers' attention, and it's really aligned with your programs. So it's seamless. So if you would like those 2 things, here is what you do. I want you to send me an email. My email address is Mary, I'm putting it in the chat, Mary@simplygetclients.com. And with the subject line, smile. When I receive that, my team will go, ooh, smiles, and they will send you these resources. There will be a bit of a flurry of emails because I have everything on a learning platform I'll give you access to. So just take a breath. I promise it's not going to be this much email all the time. Promise, pinky swear, okay? But if you would like those, that's how you do it. Yes, Bruce.
Sorry to beat this up, but my question was, you've just spoken in front of X number of people. The organization did not give you their contacts. How do you get your contacts? You told us about things you're going to give away, but how do you get their contacts as they're walking out the door?
I just got everybody's contact information now. I was showing you how I get everyone's contact information. Okay. So you're asking how you get it when they walk out the door, and I'm saying get it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I spoke in front of 400 executive directors, and the organization was supposed to send me their information. I gave away a free book to everybody. They walked out the door, never got one email from anyone except the ones that followed up to me.
Okay, perfect. So here is what I would recommend in that case, because you have to have some, different strategies, different for different, oh my God, I'm obviously a speaker. I'm so articulate, for different situations. So in that situation, doing something where you have a resource where they can take out their phone and snap a QR code and quickly send you their email, or, but giving them a resource that is so tasty, tempting, and that they just want to get their hands on it because it's so, it deeply articulates something you've given them the first part of. Having a way to capture their information. I love email because there's no tech involved. I mean, does anybody not know how to work their email? No. And so here's the thing that I do to encourage to do this today, now, right now, is I actually do a drawing at the end for a book giveaway. And this may not work for your audience, Bruce. You would need something different, obviously, to give away. But my giveaway is I'm going to do a book drawing at the end, and I'm going to do it right from the emails that are in my inbox at the end of this presentation. So that's why I recommend you send me that email now. Okay, so Bruce, did we get to your question? I didn't mean to bury it. I really meant to demonstrate it.
Well, no, that helps a lot. I was thinking that, giving something away, because I give away a free PDF of my book to anyone that wants it, for that matter, but especially speaking engagements. But I'm not asking them for their email. But I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it is just, if you want the book, and you know what? Okay. So it's the guiding, the guiding light here is our ideal client. So you have to think about your ideal clients are probably very busy. And so you got to figure out what is that way that they will do it. Maybe they text, maybe they love to text. So it'd be an SMS type of thing. But it's got to be in alignment with who they are. You know, if you've got a bunch of, if your people are Gen Zs, then it's like, get right over to Instagram or get on TikTok. And here's the thing. I mean, you have to consider who your ideal client is when you're directing their action for anything you're doing. Okay. Thanks for that question, Bruce. Don.
Just a quick question about speaking in live engagements versus online engagements. We've all moved to online everything, but as things begin to open up, is there a balance that between live and online that you would look for? The advantage, of course, of online is you can reach audiences in places you don't have to travel to or wouldn't travel to. But in a larger area like this, you know, there are plenty of local potential speaking engagements. Would you have a balance between them, or what would you suggest?
My suggestion would be really you do some of whatever you enjoy. Some people really don't love online. Some people really don't love live. And so they really say, this is what I'm going to stick to, because the preference plays a big part of it. I'll tell you, 2020 was my most profitable year because I didn't have any travel expenses. It was remarkable. And I learned something important, and that is look at the bottom line. So I would look at your results. Some people find they have, like I have one of my clients, her online results are garbage, but when she gets in person, it's magic. And so I would say there's not a perfect mix. You have to discover your perfect mix. You figure out what is it that bottom line makes sense? What is it that conversion makes sense?
Yeah, I like in person because it gives me that opportunity before and after to directly engage with people.
Yeah.
Where online, that's
Sometimes,
much harder to do.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Randy.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to just sort of hit back on that email question for a second. I got your example, right? You gave us two things and said, if you want this, send me the email with smile. And that way you're getting a qualified lead that way. So to sort of follow up on Bruce's thing, if I'm going into a room with 400 people and the organization is not going to send a list, I shouldn't really expect to get all those people's email addresses, but the ones who just walk out without providing it, like they're not going to be my clients anyway. So I don't really care.
Absolutely.
Right. The people who email me and say, oh yeah, let me get the free report or these free things, like that's the only ones I really care about anyways. Right. Am I understanding you right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in any group that the way I do it now, I get about 60% of the people in the room choose to get the free resources. That's fine. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I get it. It's totally cool. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Tony.
I apologize for the background noise. There are people working in my house right now. Hopefully you cannot hear it too much. Yeah, my question is about following up. So I think I got like the first steps right. I create events or opportunities to speak and so on. Get a lot of people interested to come to those events, and I gather some of the emails. I can get better at that, and I can do it earlier, like you just showed us. But the following up and the offer, I do it once, and if I don't hear anything, then I'm done. But I believe there is more to do with that. And
yeah. Yes, and so first of all, contextually, you are going to see what my follow-up is. And what you're going to see is in the first email, I say, hey, if you're kicking yourself because you didn't decide to schedule a call with me, here's a second chance. And then here are the resources I provided. After that, I'm going to ask for some feedback. And then about a month down the road, I'm going to say, what did you implement? If you didn't implement anything and like to get on a call with me, great, here you go. Here's the link. And after that, I just keep you in my tribe for as long as you want to be around. And I don't, do you want to call? Do you want to call? Do you want to call? Do you want to buy? You are people who are, mildly, you've just learned about me and you're mildly interested in staying connected. And for most people, I have to do a little bit more connecting, a little more keeping in touch in order to earn your business. So I think there's probably a balance of, yes, you could be doing follow-up, but it may not look like what you think it looks like. So keep an eye on your emails, save my emails and see the process that I do.
Yeah, so it sounds like you do the follow-up first and try to get a meeting with the person. And then after that, if nothing happens, you keep it going and leave an open invitation by giving more and more. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I'm pretty sure people would unsubscribe if I kept just going, hey, Pia, you want to get on my calendar? You want to get on my calendar? You want to get on my calendar? And be like, dude, I said no. Got it? Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Okay. I have time to take one more question right now, and then I'm going to have to continue, and then I'll have hopefully a little bit of time at the end. Okay. Sheila.
Just to clarify your answer to the first question about sending you an email with the subject line smile, I just assumed, I'm going to do that when I get off of this call. But did you literally send it right then, that moment in the middle of the presentation?
Yes. And the reason is because and this is another one where I time limit. This is something to, again, contextually do something like this. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to open up my inbox on my phone. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, here's everybody's smiles in my inbox, and Sheila is the winner of the book. I'm going to literally do a drawing on this call. So that means you emailing me doesn't get lost in the shuffle after this meeting.
So how do you, if you've collected business cards, you can reach in and pick one.
Exactly.
Blindly. How do you what's the equivalent of that virtually from emails?
I will show you at the end. The big reveal. No, I literally do show my process because it's funny to me that I just go into my inbox and pick someone's name because it's so low tech. It's so low tech. It's not clever at all.
So you're just picking one. It's not a random process.
Oh no, it is random. It is random. I'll show you.
Okay.
I'll show you when we get there. Okay. Thanks, Sheila. So Janet and Pia, I hopefully will have time at the end. And Janet, it's good to see you again, by the way. Hi. All right. Okay. Let me, I want to make sure to get through the content today, and then we'll continue the conversation as we go. All right. So we want to factor in the 6 essential elements of an effective client generation plan so you can maximize your results. Now, this is, if you want to grow and scale your business, you've got to have a system for client generation. Speaking is part of the puzzle, can be part of the puzzle, but I want to equip you with a bigger picture understanding of how this all works together. Because when it comes to client generation, a lot of what I see is business owners do a little here, a little there. Some of it just happens by accident. And what it ends up is either a time-consuming mess, or it's something that you don't really feel like you have a high degree of control over. And so it's just this up and down thing that you're at the mercy of. So let me ask a quick question of you. So get your chat open again with the fingers on the keyboard. I've got a yes or no question for you. Here it is. Yes or no. Do you have a written client generation plan? Okay, see some no. No, I saw a yes fly by on my screen. No, not really. Partial. Fabulous. Okay. Now, as I said, this is often because there's just a disconnect. It gets lost in the shuffle. And this is a lot of times it's because people are going after their business tactically. They learn something here, they learn something there, and it's never this whole picture pulling in the same direction. So some of you mentioned you've been doing some speaking and it hasn't quite landed. Some of these factors we're going to go over next might be part of the issue, because each of these areas impact the results you get out of your speaking as a client generation strategy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to define each of these 6 elements. I'm going to simplify this. There we go. And what I recommend is you write these down, you evaluate what you have, what you're missing. And this way, I know you have some of these things in your business. And I know some of the things maybe need a little bit of tuning up, but in the busy go, 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 it can just look like it's not working instead of getting really clear about what needs to be adjusted. So that's what I want to give you right now, is that clarity about what could be adjusted to get you better results. So let's start over here on the left with values and vision. So when you have your values, your vision, your why completely clear, you create this sense of conviction. And that gives you the courage to ask to be paid what you're worth It gives you that willingness to put yourself out there, willingness to make that terrifying, scary offer in your talks, even if you risk rejection. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is low and 10 is high, are you clear about your values, your vision, and your goals? Next is your pricing and packaging. Now, this is pretty obvious, but it's important. And simply the question is your pricing structured so it's honoring your expertise and owning your value? Are you paying yourself decently, not just rolling everything back into the business? So the bottom line question is, are you clear and confident that your pricing is where it needs to be for you to reach your financial goals? On a scale of 1 to 10, again, 1 is low, 10 is high. The next piece is ideal client clarity. When you're writing your description of your ideal client, a pro tip here, you never start that description with the words, I'd be willing to work with. You've got to get clear about who is ideal, who can you serve at the highest level, and who will pay you at the highest level. Talked about ideal client being your guide in your speaking, and that's actually the case for everything in your business. And you've got to commit to that ideal. And so on a scale of 1 to 10, how clear are you about your ideal client, who they are, what they're thinking, and where you can find them? Next is magnetic messaging. And messaging takes everything you know about your ideal client and translates it into words everywhere they show up in your business, in your talk titles, on your website, your social media posts, your 30-second introduction. And the key to making your messaging magnetic is the ability to communicate your value quickly from the perspective of your ideal client. So when someone asks you what do you do, are you able to communicate your value quickly? On a scale of 1 to 10, how magnetic is your messaging? Next is lead generation. So lead generation is the list of activities that you do on a consistent basis every month that you are confident will bring in the amount of business you want. So speaking is one of those lead generation strategies. And when you're thinking about what is a lead generation strategy, think about this. Are you or your team putting yourself in a position to make offers and ask for business? If you are, then those are lead generation strategies. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you about your ability to bring in new leads consistently? And the last piece is sales and enrollment. Can you confidently convert a prospect into a paying client? And this means having a sales process that removes the guesswork of how to express the value of what you do, how to ask to be paid what you're worth. So rate your ability to close the sale once someone says they are interested. Of course, sometimes this looks like, how do I get it through the bureaucracy so someone will actually make a decision? Rate your ability to close the sale once someone says they are interested. Now, what do you do with this evaluation? Well, first of all, we will point out to you what areas need your attention. What I'm hoping is this will help narrow your focus in on some of the action steps you can take outside of here to make everything you do a little bit more effective. Second thing you're going to do with this is keep it around. Anytime you make a shift, anytime there's a big change in the market, anytime you feel a little bit wobbly in your focus about how you're growing your business, you can come back to this. Right at the beginning of the pandemic, I thought I was going to have to reinvent my entire business. I don't know why. I was perhaps a little emotional. And I did this evaluation and I looked and I found there were only 2 areas that I really needed to adjust. And because of that, I did have my most profitable year ever in 2020. And otherwise, I would have gone into reinvention mode, throwing away 9 years of hard work. So keep this around and use it forever. And here's the thing, when you get these pieces in place, when you get your speaking aligned with them, that's when those free speaking gigs start to actually produce results. And I love Camille's example here. because she had done a lot of speaking, kind of some of the stories that or some of the comments I got earlier. You've been doing free speaking, not seeing results. That was Camille's story for years. She's a leadership consultant, succeeding, doing great now, but she'd been doing a lot of speaking. It was going nowhere. And once she got the structure together, she applied the strategies for all of the elements of the client generation. She is consistently generating leads who want to work with her further. So I'm sure you're super excited for Camille right now, but what about you? What do you need to do next in order to pull together the plan, pull together your next steps? Well, I am all about impact. One of my top 3 values is impact. So I want to take you through 3 steps to create lasting impact. And the first one is we have got to step back from the strategic, because I've been talking, you've been writing, you've been interacting, you've been chat and thinking. You need to give that part of your brain a little bit of a break. So I'm going to invite you right now to put down your pen, to take your hands off the keyboard, and to get into the creative centers of your brain for just a minute or 2. So I'm going to have you take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you are comfortable. And I invite you to imagine having a steady stream of great clients coming in. These are clients who happily pay you what you're worth. You're making a difference. You're becoming more and more well-known for your expertise and your brilliance. And to attract those clients, you have a plan. And it's not just any plan. It's a plan full of things that you actually love to implement, things that are simple and clear, where you feel authentic and never pushy. You know what to do. You know where to go. And you know what to say to take prospects from that initial meeting to signing on the bottom line as a client. And you do all of this with confidence and with consistency and with ease. Take another deep breath. Open your eyes. All right, got the rest of your brain on board. Is that a vision you can get behind? Yes, I hope so. Okay, so now that you've got the structure and all the stuff I taught, and now you've got the inspiration and everything, let's look at step number 2, and that is, what is a bite-sized action you can take from something you discovered here today? What is a bite-sized action you can take that you discovered here today? I'm going to give you a minute to write that down. Okay. Now, bite-sized is great, but if you're anything like me, you wrote down more than one thing because I always want more. I get it. So I hope you're feeling inspired. You say, yes, I see, I need some structure and I see how speaking could work for me. And what's the challenge? What's the next challenge? You're busy. You're fired up. How do you keep this level of focus and inspiration week after week so you really start seeing results? So at this point, I recommend you identify something really important. When thinking about what you want and need in your business, who do you have in your corner who's accomplished what you want to accomplish and is available to help you when you need it most? Because some of you have the support you need, but for those of you who don't, I invite you to schedule a call with me to explore the possibility of working together further. Now, this is a great option for you if you've been feeling a little stuck in your business, like you're spinning your wheels, you're not sure why, or if you've been looking for some kind of support, but just can't quite picture what that looks like. Now, I'm offering a complimentary call, but they're really reserved for people who are tired of feeling like your hard work isn't paying off at the level you want. You're serious about doing what it takes to change. You're decisive. You're willing to invest in yourself. And making more money is actually a really high priority for you. That's one of my specialties. So if that sounds like you, then on this call, we're going to discuss your goals. We're going to figure out what's getting in the way, and I'll make recommendations for which of my programs will give you the structure and the strategy to reach your goals faster and with less stress. Now, I take this time with you personally because working together is an investment, and I want us to both be 100% confident that I'm the right fit for you. So to get on my calendar, it's very simple. You go to breakthroughcall.biz. It's a calendar, pick your date, pick your time. I'm dropping it in the chat too. And schedule today puts you first in line. Now, in case you're thinking, well, that sounds interesting, I'm just going to jot that down. I'll get around to it later. I am going to give you an incentive to schedule now, so all this clarity and good intention doesn't get lost in the shuffle. When you book today, I will be giving you a digital copy of my complete ebook of strategy and encouragement for the impact-driven entrepreneur. This is a perfect read for those days where entrepreneurship can be a little rough. You're looking at the Starbucks barista and feeling a little jealous. This is the book that gets you through. Okay, and as promised, I'm going to do that super fancy drawing. Ready? If you have sent me an email with a smile, I have the world's most cheerful inbox. I am now holding up my phone. You can see my inbox sort of, it's probably a little blurry, and I'm just going to kind of shuffle and I'm tapping and, oh, I win. It's an email from me. Let's try again. That is one of my old clients. Okay, I'm really going to pick a winner this time. Dana Zellers. Dana, you are our winner. So Dana, your homework is you have to email me your mailing address because I'm actually going to physically put a book in the mail to you. All right. And that concludes on time my portion of your presentation, unless we want to take those questions that we're still hanging out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Amazing. Here's what I would say. I think we have a few minutes. If you want to do a few more questions, please do.
Great. Okay, so it was Janet and then Pia, if I remember correctly. So Janet?
Sure. My question is more about the actual delivery. So I had a couple of speaking gigs last winter that were online. And, I usually love speaking because there's so much interaction with the audience. And after those talks, I felt sort of gutted because I wasn't getting any reaction from the group. So I was just curious how you handle that. I mean, just if I look at what you just modeled today by putting that question in the middle of your talk, that probably helps a lot. But I was just curious what else you do to encourage interaction.
Yeah, actually, I will. I'm going to make a note right now because I actually created something. Have you heard of WBEX? And they're now coaching.com. It's this huge organization and they do all this online stuff. And I created a document with, here are the ways you engage your audience. And I have a little explainer video that goes through it. So I will try to remember. I'll just maybe reply back to all the emails and just say, if you want it, here it is. If you don't want it, that's fine. But I do an interaction of some kind. You may or may not know it, about every 3 minutes. And it's not always raise your hand. It's not always right, but it's, I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to say this again. It's so important. Look at your screen. Do you see that? There are so many different things. So there's things you can do to actually engage the audience. And then the other part is you just have to, I make the assumption that everyone is having a rollicking good time. You can't wait for the reaction to the audience. You can, and frankly, I went live. I did a talk in Ohio a couple of weeks ago. And the audience was, the stuff I teach can be pretty dense information. And you know what people's thinking face looks like. And in person, that can be And I found myself being like trying to do things like, oh my gosh, like I needed some kind of approval, like acknowledgement. And then I caught myself. I was like, no, I know my stuff. Everyone's having a good time. They're doing, and then I had to just like kind of gather myself together. And in a virtual situation, you have to do that. You just have to like own your shit and just deliver. You can't be dependent on them.
Thank you. That's really useful.
You're welcome. All right. Is Pia still here?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Oh, there you are. Hi.
Hi, Mary. This has been amazing. So much information. And this might be out of the scope of what you're doing today, but how to find these places to give the talks?
Yes. The course that if you sent an email, the course, it's called Launch Your Six-Figure Speaking Strategy. It is, okay, so the way I break things down is there's 3 things you have to do to have this work for you. You have to book gigs, you have to have content that creates curiosity and desire. And the third thing is you have to make an offer. You have to do all 3 of those things with excellence. That course goes over step 1, how to get booked. And I literally like, here's how you search. Here is how you like, I have charts, I have grids, it is very detailed. So it will answer that question for you, Pia.
Oh, great. I'm excited for that. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Absolutely. And Nora, I'm going to have you cut me off.
I'm thinking if we end by 9:30, which is 3 minutes from now, we're in great shape.
Okay, great. Then I will go to Mary.
Thanks. And I think I'm following up on this conversation just because, like Bruce, I feel like I have a pretty unique audience in that I work with nonprofits and it's mostly executive directors and boards. And so I'm wondering how your sort of list in developing your target audience addresses that sort of a smaller pool of audience.
I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Could you?
When you're developing a list of speaking engagements and where to approach and who might, for me, I'm working with a fairly narrow audience because I work with nonprofits and because it's mostly executive directors or board of directors. And so does your process sort of address smaller niche areas?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And especially because one thing to understand is that you are looking for audiences that contain your ideal client, not necessarily consist of your ideal client. That's a differentiation that I only started making about a year ago that I didn't realize was really keeping people stuck. It's like, well, I need every single person in the room to be a coach or consultant with 2 to 10 years experience. It's like, it's not going to happen. But if I go to a NABO event, there's going to be some of those people in the room, and that's good. That works. So contains, not consist. And yes, it will help with that.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Is it Yael?
Yael, yes.
Yael.
So I want to follow up on something someone else put in the chat. I had the same question. You mentioned the 3 follow-ups after the speaking engagement, but I'd like more delineation of that. What are those 3 follow-ups and how to time them?
Okay. I'll do my best here, but the fact is I've kind of automated a lot of this stuff, and so I don't remember. What I do know is I have a general rule that if I speak in the morning, the follow-up should happen well before the end of the day. So timing is the first thing. If I speak in the middle of the day, it should absolutely happen before the end of the day. And if it happens in the evening, it's mid-morning. You want to be out of the morning crush, of email. You want to be mid-morning. Okay, so that's the follow-up timing. The first follow-up is a repetition of the offer at the very top, and then delivering the resources you promised, whatever they were. Okay. A couple days later, so I have worked very hard to make my follow-ups, like my ongoing follow-ups, look like I just went, hey, Yael, how you doing? Hey, I forgot to ask something. Could you just, very plain email. You're going to look at it, you're like, God, Mary just shot me an email. So now that is totally blown for all of you. So now you know the fact that it is automated, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So the second one I send out is I say, hey, you know what? I forgot to ask, what was the best thing? What was your best takeaway? And that actually, as a speaker, is incredibly valuable. Because there's sometimes things I'm thinking about cutting, but when I start seeing people go, this was really impactful, and then they are hiring me, it's like, okay, I know those have to stay in. And I think that's about 2 or 3 days later. So you're probably going to get that like Monday or Tuesday. I do at some point say, hey, you know what? You obviously can see I love to speak. Are there any other groups you attend that are looking for speakers? So I do a referral ask. I do give another resource in there somewhere. And then 30 days, I do a, hey, what have you implemented type of thing. And I think it's going to be different, again, for every ideal client. There's not really a cookie cutter formula here, and in my opinion. So thinking about what I like to do is I like to think about my ideal client and just say, what happens? What happens for them? What happens for them the next day? What happens for them 3 days later? What happens for them a week later? What happens a month later? And just where is their mind? And I try to be saying to them what is happening for them. Awesome.
Awesome. Mary, thank you. Thank you very, very much.